very much. Very nice introductory music. I'm Canadian, so I'm going to start off with a very Canadian thing, and I'm going to say I'm very, very sorry for what I'm about to do. Everything you're about to hear is going to be in English, is part number one. Number two, this entire presentation is going to be about audio, and it's going to be about graphs. So it's three embarrassing things as a Canadian that I'm starting off for to apologize for. So some of the stuff we've talked about already today that I think everybody here knows is we've never been in a time where audiences have more power. They have more power to choose what they want to watch and listen to, and they have more power to choose what they don't want to watch and listen to. And we've seen the stats earlier about people skipping through things, and when they have a choice, they're going to choose the things that are of most interest to them. The question is, when people have all the power and you're a brand making content, how do you stand out from everybody else? I'm going to make the case that it's actually audio is a really fantastic opportunity, and everything has been about video so far today. Audio is a really, really interesting thing, and I think Italy is about to start their audio experience and to start their podcasting experience that has been happening in North America for about 4 years and just continues to grow and grow and grow. So I want to make a case today for why your next branded podcast should actually be audio. Number one, you can't reach people with video when they're driving a car. You can't reach people when they're walking their dogs or taking a bus or making dinner. There's all sorts of places where screens can't reach people and audio can. It's a fantastic way to reach people when they're not reachable in other ways. I'm going to show you in a second some stats, but it delivers huge amounts of engagement. I think maybe the best levels of engagement compared to any other medium that's out there. As a brand, when you want to tell stories, when you have longer engagement, you can tell bigger, longer stories. So if you want to tell stories about things that you're excited about or that you're passionate about, you can tell really good stories with real meat on the bone, and everybody makes it all the way through. Unlike some other mediums where the platforms own your audience, with audio, you get to own your own audience. So everybody starts from zero, but as you build that audience over time, it's your audience, and it's an audience that has voluntarily said, I want to spend time with you because I'm really enjoying your show. And it means that when you earn that trust, you get to talk to them whenever you want, and they're not throttled in any way. You get to talk to everybody when you want to. And the last thing is that this really is a perfect medium for brands who do it right. And we're going to talk a little bit around what doing it right means in audio. I think maybe for people who aren't familiar with podcasts, because it sounds like it's relatively new in Italy, maybe the best way to think about podcast is kind of like Netflix for radio. The same way that everybody will maybe watches less TV because they have a choice of whatever they want to watch on Netflix now. It's the same thing for podcasts. We don't have to listen to what's on the radio right now. We can go through and choose all the things that we actually want and love, or the things that are perfect for us. So podcasts are an on-demand radio show medium. They're also really fantastic for branded content. They're amazing for the top of the funnel. We saw some stuff around the funnel earlier today. If you're doing brand level marketing and you're interested in brand awareness and brand positioning, audio is a fantastic medium for that. It is maybe the most intimate medium because it's people listening with your brand voice in their ears over and over and over again for up to 30 minutes an episode, and they subscribe and kind of keep building a relationship with you. It's fantastic. So here's graph number one. This is pretty remarkable. So if you think about, let's just say an average podcast out there is about 38 minutes long. Out of everybody who listens to a podcast, 93% listen to all or most of it. So think about that, 38 minutes, as soon as you click play, you get through all or most of it. It's a ridiculous amount of engagement compared to any other medium out there. Let's look at video. Video is amazing, but it doesn't have that kind of engagement. So this is something from a streaming platform called Wistia. This is their argument for why shorter video is better. And it's a pretty great argument. Like, video is very powerful, and when you're on a screen and you're on Facebook, you need to kind of, make content for the right context that people are in. But if I look at the length of where a podcast is, less than 20% make it through a 20 to 30 minute show, and less than 15% make it through a show that's longer than that. I'm going to compare that to audio. So these are two podcasts that, that our company works with. The first one is from Dell, and the second one is from a financial company called Charles Schwab. 98% completion rate. Everyone who clicks play that gets through 98% of the show. The second one, 92% of the people who hit play make it all the way through the show. So when you make a great show, you're going to get a huge amount of people's time and attention, which is, I think we know as brand marketers, the most valuable thing that you can get. So huge engagement is the kind of the prize if you do it well, but there's some really important things that you have to think about to make sure you actually do it well, because if you do it poorly, you don't get any of this. The first part is it's a really, really crowded landscape. Just like video, just like blogs, there's over 700,000 podcasts that are out there in the world right now. So again, the question is, how do you stand out? This is where we come to the next graph. So we have a secret sauce at our company that we've been using for about 4.5 years that has let us find a lot of success with working with brands. The boring part, and again, I apologize for this, is that it's a graph. That's our secret sauce, is a graph. These are our list of clients that we've built up over the last 4 years. Their secret to success is our boring graph. They all use it, and the ones that don't use it don't find the success that they're having. I know you're all hungry, but are you ready for the graph? Yes? Okay. This is it. And I apologize, because I know what you're thinking, that looks really boring. That is not a consensus triangle. That is not the other nicer looking graphs. It's really easy to understand, but it's actually really, really hard to do. So I'm going to walk through this in a bit, but the bottom axis is creative bravery, which is basically, are you actually making a real show? Are you making a piece of marketing, or are you making a real show that is going to compete with everything else that's out there for time and attention? The other axis is commitment, which is, are you going to tell all the right people about this show? If you can do both of those things and you end up in the upper right quadrant, you win at podcasting. And you probably win at video and blogs if you can do all that too. So what is creative bravery? It's kind of nice being here, seeing the original brave and entertaining, because brave is a really big component to what we do and where we see as a big success factor with all of our clients. If we go back to this, when everybody gets to choose what they want to watch and listen to, and you have a choice between something that you like or something that you love, you're always going to choose the thing that you love. And so the question for a brand is, don't make things that people like. Keep pushing and pushing and pushing until you make something that people really love. Make it great and set a very, very high bar for yourself. Don't make infomercials, and don't make things that are average. So on the scale of creative bravery, we can make things that people hate, all the way up to things people don't care about, where people like them. The win is when you make something that people really love. One of our clients, Dell Technologies, makes a show called Trailblazers with Walter Isaacson. It's done really, really well. If I think about where this show could have been if Dell wasn't smart and brave, it probably would have been, on the low side. It probably would have been a show called Please Buy a Dell Computer, hosted by a Dell executive. There's lots of podcasts out there with executives talking about their own companies and their own products and services. Super boring. Nobody's going to listen. No one voluntarily downloads an infomercial and listens for a second time. When we go all the way over here, we have a show that is not hosted by anyone at Dell. It's not. You don't even see anything about Dell on there. They're the company that makes the show. They're the media company that makes a show for business leaders called Trailblazers, and it's hosted by Walter Isaacson, who is the guy who wrote the Steve Jobs biography and the book The Innovators. He stands for innovation and leadership in the digital space. It's a real show, and the real show does really, really well. So when we think about where podcast success is from a strategy standpoint for brands, we think about, what is the show that can only be done by you? What is the show that has all your brand DNA in it, that has your voice, it has your values, and it's designed from scratch to meet your business goals? And knowing what success means, the show is deliberately designed to meet those success goals, but it's also something that your target audience is going to voluntarily want to listen to, not just once, but episode after episode after episode. If you can focus on finding that sweet spot where those overlap, that's the creative bravery point, again, that leads to a lot of success in podcasting. On to the other side, commitment. This is a really interesting thing because everybody in podcasting starts at zero. There's no audiences. This is very different than a lot of other media companies. I came from the traditional media. I worked in TV and radio for a long time. Whenever you make shows there, you don't have to worry about building an audience. When you're working in podcasting, you start at zero. And in some really interesting ways, brands have superpowers that give them really unfair advantages for building large audiences really quickly in podcasting compared to everybody else in the industry. So commitment is, are you going to use all your strengths and everything that you have in your back pocket to be able to build an audience? Are you going to tell all the right people and use all your tools to do it? So poor commitment is no one knows about your show. As you kind of get up there, maybe there's a secret club of people that discover it accidentally and love it. It could be a really creatively brave show, but if no one knows about it, it's just a secret club of people in there. As you use more and more of your skills and more of your kind of your superpowers as a brand to reach people, you get up to all the right people know about the show. That's where the right win is, where you have the super engaged audience and it's money well spent. I'm going to give you a couple examples of some of our clients and how they have used their superpowers to find really high levels of commitment. So over here, Facebook has a show called 3.5 Degrees. It is a business show, and they used Facebook and Instagram, their own superpowers, to promote their show. And they did it in a really interesting way. They actually designed editorial, so they booked guests, and then used the backgrounds of those guests to find the most relevant audience, all the right people who cared about them. So in this example here, there was an episode that featured a clothing company called Two Blind Brothers. And it was founded by two brothers who are legally blind. And the concept for the company is that it's designed around how the clothes feel rather than how the clothes look. And they happened to go to the University of West Virginia. And so one of the ads that Facebook did was targeting only people who used to go to the University of West Virginia, all the alumni for there, and said, a custom ad saying, hey, check out these UVA grads. They're on our new show. If you're a UVA grad, you're going to want to hear this amazing success story. They did that for every single guest for the entire season, where their whole goal was just to say, who are the people out there that care the most about the guests on this show, and how can we increase relevance higher and higher and higher using our own tools at Facebook that are really, really good at targeting, super effective, and using all the strengths that they already have. Over here we do a show with Mozilla, who makes the Firefox browser. And they make a show about the health of the internet. It's a fantastic show if you care about the issues of the internet. And their superpower is the Firefox browser. Every time there's a new episode, if you open a new tab in Firefox, right below the search bar is a promo for their show. This goes out for free to millions of people because they're using their own strengths. They also have email newsletters that reach hundreds of thousands of people. The fact is that, no other podcasters have Firefox. They don't have the opportunity to reach things. So when you're starting something like this, and as a brand, when you can reach lots of people, really, really, really effective. And then I'll just go back to the Dell one again. Some of the things that brands can do are hire really interesting people to host their shows. So again, going back to hiring Walter Isaacson, the author of the Steve Jobs biography, that made it feel like a real show that wasn't a piece of marketing. And the result of it was the TV network in the United States, CBS, had Walter on their morning show for 10 minutes talking about this podcast that happens to be from Dell. And the result of that, it went straight to the #1 business podcast in the States. So the more that companies can think and act like media companies and make fantastic shows and use all these strengths that only they can do to make shows and commit really well to letting people know about it, huge, huge amount of success that you can have with podcasts. These are some of the stats just so you know what's possible out there, is that brands are actually, when they make great shows, they're being seen the same way other media companies are. Maybe the same way you might think Red Bull is, where they actually are a media company. If you make a great show, people will download it, they will subscribe to it, they will listen to lots and lots of it and keep going. You can see the download numbers here. These are like in the millions of downloads. It's in the States, so it's, you know, it's a very big market right now, but it's an amazing form of content, and all these brands started taking a big risk and an experiment to say we're going to try something new and we're going to go in and be bold and make a great thing. They keep making more and more and more seasons because they see how big the audience is getting and the crazy amount of engagement it's getting. So I think you are probably at the very beginning of your podcast journey in Italy. It's going to be really exciting, and I can't wait to see it start blowing up, I guess maybe next week with the podcast that Mirko was just talking about. For all of you who are considering it, think about this. Make shows that people love and make them really creatively brave. Think about all the unfair advantages and the secret strengths that you have as brands to be able to reach people and make sure all the right people know about it. And there is a huge, awesome period of success out there waiting for all of you. Thank you very much.